Was this the moment you realized it could be full-time, and how did everything with ROKKR happen?
They were like, hey, like, just so you know, like, we've been watching you, like, we've been like monitoring like your streams, your growth. And I was like, whoa, a CDL org, like, holy smokes, that's like a dream come true, because I've always wanted to be, you know, like a pro Call of Duty player or whatever.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into another Bot Lobby podcast episode. I'm Grandmaster Gojj, as always, joined by the wonderful Katie Bedford over here on my right or left. I don't know how it's oriented. Katie, how are you doing today?
I am on the right.
Sure.
You said that with not as much confidence as I would have expected, but it's okay. We're gonna pump those numbers up by the end of the podcast. I'm fantastic. Really, really excited for the guests we have on today. I'm excited to be doing another episode. You know, actually, I think really the next 2 weeks. I'm super hyped about what we've got in store for you guys with Bot Lobby.
Look, I love this new trend that we're doing where we just invite on like the best guests ever every single week. We've had some incredible guests thus far. This is one of our favorites. We've casted over her many a time. She's won a ton of money in Warzone, and without further ado, let's bring in Smixie, the legend herself. Smixie, you're on the screen. You're here with us. How are you doing today?
Doing great, thank you. How are you?
We're doing all right. You know, Katie and I were having a long conversation before the podcast, not only because of how excited we are to have you on, but also just kind of like in preparation for this whole thing. So really excited to be here. Smix, before we get started, before we start having our long conversation about everything, we have this new trend that we've been doing on the podcast where we rapid fire question to start. Okay. So we're going to give you a couple questions. I think you've watched before. So
yes,
we're going to give you a couple questions. Some of them will sound familiar. Some of them will be new. Just first thing that comes to your mind, even if it's like an hour later and you're like, man, I was totally off on that. It's okay. Just give us the first thing that comes to mind. So Katie, how about you start it? And then we'll go back and forth all the way down.
All right. Favorite person to stream / compete with?
Oh God, Frig, I'm trying to think about everybody that I play with. Probably Adore.
Okay, that's a good one. I like that.
That's a great one. Favorite streaming moment thus far?
When I hit Twitch partner.
Amazing.
Oh, that's a good one. I don't think we've heard that one yet, Gojj.
Yeah, it happened like live on my stream actually. So.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome. All right, favorite meta of all time?
The AMAX Mac 10, always, forever.
Okay, I like it.
We've heard that one a couple times. Favorite competitive moment thus far?
When I won Hitch's Creator Cup.
Heck yeah.
Yeah,
love Hitch tournaments.
Yeah, that was like a very satisfying moment for me.
All right, favorite Warzone comp format?
Trios Rebirth Customs.
Oh dang! Okay, you've been waiting.
Everyone.
Yeah, no, that's like my favorite to watch. It's my favorite to play. It's like, I don't know. I feel like it mixes because you know, like 2v2 is like so like heavily in like engagements and like fast pacedness, but you get that in the Rebirth Customs, but you also get the fact that you're playing against the best of the best all in the same lobby, like a Caldera Customs.
That is very fair, and I will say from a caster's perspective, they're also a lot of fun. They are a bit chaotic. It is very hard for the observers to keep up with the action in Rebirth, but that's part of what makes them super fun. Okay, least favorite duo to compete against?
Ooh, that is a good question. I would probably say Tom and Ben.
Respect that.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I don't like playing against them in big tourneys. You look at the scoreboard, you're down 10 off the rip. It's not a good feeling.
All right. Who knows? Maybe a similar answer, but your hardest loss?
My hardest loss was, ooh, that's a good question. The what tourney was that? It was the 15K Katie Cap co-ed. Me and Flank came in second to Aiden and Danny. And it was like,
I feel like I remember this.
Yeah, it was like all the way back in Verdansk. It was like one of the very first co-eds that were ever hosted.
I think I casted this.
You might have. You might have.
I remember this very distinctly because I feel like in my brain I was like, wow, I hope they win. That would be really dope for them.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Like, that was when like my stream popped off because like all of Aiden's viewers came to my stream and was like, who the heck is this person? And we beat them in the first best of 3. We lost to them in the second best of 3. And I was like, wow, we almost did that. Like it would have been like my first big tourney win. Like that would have been really cool.
That one like definitely hurts and stings, but I'm sure it propelled you forward to keep competing because you wanted to taste that victory.
Yeah.
Okay, a final question. This is a new one. If you could do any dream brand deal right now, who would you want to like work with?
I would love to work with either Red Bull or honestly, I'm gonna stick in like the gaming thing, like Astro or Razer.
Sure.
Something like that.
Astro is fantastic. Wait, I thought you were already.
No, I'm not.
Really? Astro.
No.
Hey.
Come on, guys. Hit
Wake
me
up.
Go into the Discord right now.
That was amazing. Well, thank you for answering those questions. This kind of starts us off on our conversation points. And, one of the things that we really wanted to do is like continue to get to know you. We've had a chance to cast over all of your competitions or not all of them, a lot of your competitions over
many
the last
of them.
couple years, and wanted to kind of go backwards, right? And based off of some of the answers you've already given, we can expand on these, but wanted to start just at basically the beginning. And what started you in live streaming in general? Like, what got you interested in doing this as a career?
Well, I actually never thought I would be doing this as a career, to be honest with you. I started in 2016. That was my first stream. I was streaming on my PlayStation, some MWR GBs.
Yeah, that's a throwback.
Wow. That's a deep cut.
Wow.
Yes. And then I got a little bit into CSGO after that because I got my first PC, like I think a year later. And then got back into COD because I was competing like in the amateur bracket. So I was streaming like all my scrims and stuff like that because I was like, you know what? If I'm going to be playing like 10 hours a day, I might as well turn the stream on. If there's 2 people, there's 2 people. If there's 10 people, there's 10 people. You know, you just kind of take what you can get. Then World War II came out and I had this ranked play rage series. And that's when like I first got like a lot of traction on my stream. Well, a lot. I would say like 30, 40 viewers. And that was like the most I ever had. And it was just me grinding rank play. And then like I would be playing against like pros and stuff. And it was crazy. And then, yeah, I kind of, when Black Ops 4 came out, I kind of like fell back down to like the 10 viewer range again. But I was just playing because I was passionate of playing. But I was a full-time college student. I was working full-time. I was playing the game like at least 6 hours a day. Like I was sleeping 3 hours a day. It was a grind and a half.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my follow-up question too from this. I know a lot of people, including like myself, and I'm sure Katie was there a long time ago as well. But like when you first start getting into this,
a long time ago.
No, I mean, you've been you've been in this space for a while, and you've been like a professional for a while. So I'm thinking back to like prior to being full time and prior to being professional, like you were just saying, Smixie, you were working a job, you were going to college. So like, give me a little bit of insight on that. I don't want you to DDoS yourself or anything, but like, what job were you working? Like you were saying you were sleeping 3 hours a night. Like, what did your schedule look like on a normal day back before you kind of went full time?
Yeah, so I was a full-time college student, so I was going to school from 8 a.m. to probably around like 2 p.m., sometimes 5 p.m., depends like on my schedule on that day. Then I would be working Friday, Saturday, Sundays. I would always take the morning shift, so I had the evenings to come home and scrim with my team. And then in the summer times, I would take the 6:45 to 2:45 shift, so I could come home, play from 4 to like midnight. And then kind of rinse and repeat. Like when I was in college, like I was not sleeping. Like I was going to bed at like 2 a.m., waking up at like 5 or 6 a.m. because I lived an hour away from my college. So especially when I had those 8 a.m. classes, there was like the morning traffic. So I had to leave my house like an hour ahead of time to an hour and a half, and then in the winter 2 hours before my class started. So I was like waking up at like 5 a.m. like when I had exams, I was at my school at 4:30 a.m. like studying like at the table in front of my class. Like it was crazy. I don't know. Looking back, I have no idea how, like, no wonder I was a ball of stress, because like I just constantly had stress because you're trying to work around 3 other people's schedule because there's 4 of you on a team. I'm going to school and I'm working, which is something that my teammates don't have to worry about. And so it was like trying to juggle all of that was like, I was reading like my textbook between maps of my scrims. Like, it was crazy.
Talk to me about your parents within all of this. You're doing a million things at once. You're going a million miles at once. You're finding success in a lot of different avenues, yet you haven't quite decided the one you want to walk down. How were your parents taking the kind of scrims and everything you were doing with the streaming at this point and with Call of Duty?
My mom was like, why are you like doing this? She's like, you're just adding so much pressure and stress in your life. Like, and she saw like how much like I was getting like a lot of hate because like the competitive scene, especially like the amateur scene, is so toxic towards like women. So I was dealing with like all of like negativity. There was no positive, like it was so bad. And she was like, why are you putting yourself through this? And I was like, Mom, I love this. Like, I am so passionate about this. Like, this is just worth the trouble for me, you know? And then I fell out of love with COD with like the recent CODs that came out. And I was like, oh, like, I'm done. Like, I was my senior year of college. I was like, I'm not competing anymore. I'm done. And so I just started streaming like whatever. And yeah, that's when Warzone came out. So it was kind of perfect timing.
Yeah. Okay. So the follow-up question was going to be like, when did you start competing? You answered that. You kind of were competing all the way through your early streaming career, and then you said you kind of fell out of favor with COD. Warzone comes back out. What started driving you back to competing for Warzone in particular?
It was. I actually didn't know that there was like this huge competitive scene in Warzone for the first like 6 months of me playing Warzone. I was literally sniping with the AX50 for like the first 6 months. Yeah.
Hey, that gun slapped early. Let's be very clear.
It did. It was so fun
nice
to use. Yeah. Yeah, so I was doing that for like the first 6 months, and then I realized like there's TKRs, and I was like, whoa. I was like, I gotta get involved. Like this is what I want to do. And then that's when the like the WOT series came out with eFuse, and I was like, I was on console still. I was like, I'm getting involved in this, and then I somehow managed to clinch a spot, and we won the tourney. So that was pretty crazy.
At what point after that did you make the transition to PC? Because I know it's happened with me. Anyone who, and a lot of people did, started Warzone on console and then moved to PC. It's kind of like that holy grail moment if you're like, oh my God, what was I playing on before?
Dude, yeah, I look back at my clips and I'm like, how was I playing on console? Because I was playing on a PS4, like the OG PS4. I didn't even have a PS4 Pro.
I had
like,
a PS4. Yeah.
I was like, how was I playing on this? But yeah, I got a PC. I think like a month or so after I won the eFuse tourney was when I switched over to PC, and I was like, holy, I've been missing out on so much.
FOV sliders? What?
Yes. I can see more than like 2 inches like on my side.
You know, it's funny. I was thinking back on your Warzone career and like going back through like Warzone earnings and like the different things where we've kind of kept track of your kind of progress. And you've already talked to us a little bit about your like kind of favorite wins and, you know, the Hit Your Ride tournaments, which were a lot of fun. I think like when you started gaining a following in Warzone, like what was the big moment where it was like, hey, I'm seeing a lot of traction, not just from the competitive side, but like, hey, my stream's starting to pop off. Like I remember it fairly vividly when I was like, who is Smixie? Oh, that's Smixie. And then, like I tuned into your stream and saw you compete more and more, and then I started casting over you a ton. So like what was that like when you were really pushing your stream up as well? And did it change the way that you kind of operated your stream, competed, content, etc.?
I genuinely feel like I went from like 30 to 40 viewers to like 100 viewers overnight.
Really?
Which, yeah, well, that's how it feels, because I feel like it did happen. Like after that second place with Aiden, I feel like right after that, that's when like things just like was like, oh, a bunch of new people. Like, who are these people? And like, what are they doing in my stream? And then I was like, oh my God, like I would text my mom and be like, oh my God, mom, I have like 100 viewers right now. This is crazy. This is
Wait, how was
crazy.
mom receptive to it at this point?
She was like, oh, like you have 100 viewers. I was like, yeah, like I have like 100, like just imagine 100 people in a room. Like that's a lot of people. And she was like, she did not mind me streaming because at the time, so I had graduated college at this point and I was working in social services. So I still had like a career, and then I was doing streaming on the side. So she did not care. She's like, you can do whatever you want on your spare time as long as you have a job and you're doing whatever. Like, I don't care. So she was like, oh, like the side hustle is doing really good too on top of the like main thing. And she was like, good for you. Like, you keep going, you keep doing your thing. But it wasn't until like ROKKR reached out to me that I was like, oh, like I'm going to be doing this like full time. Like, this is going to be a job for me.
Well, I love that you brought that up because that's exactly where I was heading next. So was it when ROKKR reached out, the turning point of this being a side hustle to you maybe realizing that this could become a full-time thing? And talk about that, right? Because you were one of the first women to get picked up by an org. I know that a lot of people were getting snapped up at that point, and the announcement was big. People were really hyped about it. So talk to me about, was this the moment you realized it could be full-time, and how did everything with ROKKR happen?
Yeah, so ROKKR reached out to me, I believe it was around like February of 2020. And they were like, hey, like, just so you know, like, we've been watching you, like, we've been like monitoring like your streams, your growth, your competitive things, and blah, blah, blah. And like, we're really interested in having you on board. And I was like, whoa, it's like this, like, a CDL org, like holy smokes, that's like a dream come true, because I've always wanted to be, you know, like a pro Call of Duty player or whatever, and the fact that I could be on a CDL org was dream come true. But the thing was, for them, it was super important for me to do this full time, and they knew that I had a job at the time, and they're like, well, what can we do to make you comfortable with quitting your job and pursuing this full time?
Wow, that's big.
Yeah, it was huge. And I was like, whoa. Because like if ROKKR never came in the picture, I'm like 90% sure I would still be working today.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's a huge shift.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. Because I would have never had the balls to quit my job and pursue gaming. Just because it's so unknown, and it's so like you can have one huge month and then one month where like everything goes south.
Super volatile.
Yeah. And I enjoyed streaming, and I was like, I don't want to put the pressure on myself to have to be successful in something that I genuinely enjoy, because then it takes the fun out of it. Like me putting the pressure of saying, okay, I need to hit X amount of subs this month, X amount, blah, 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 or else I'm not making my bills, you know? That really takes away from the enjoyment for me. So it was really important for me to be like, okay, like if I'm going to move full time, I have to be comfortable financially to do so, to where I don't need to worry and I don't need to stress about my stream. So it will always stay fun for me, you know?
Right. That is the most unique answer I have heard about getting picked up by an org. Like, we've had this conversation a couple times, and people wanting to get picked up by orgs, or people that have been picked up by orgs. But I love the fact that, I mean, I've always liked ROKKR, but I love the fact that ROKKR came in and said, hey, what can we do, right, to get you to a comfortable position? That was huge. And that totally changes the way you start thinking about a relationship with a company of like, hey, we're trying to take care of you, not because you do something for us, but also, hey, we can take care of you by taking care of things like your bills.
Yes. Yeah. Like ROKKR was not even just like financial part, just like, we want to see you like grow. We want to see you. So it was all about me, which was like crazy to think, because, you know, orgs is, you know, typically orgs is all about themselves because they are a company. Like, they're trying to make money, you know? And that was not the vibe that I got at all out of ROKKR, which is why, like, I was like, because at the time I was actually talking to 2 different orgs as well. And
are we allowed to know who or no?
I don't know why you wouldn't be allowed.
We just like the deets, you know?
Because that was like 2 years ago.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yeah. So I'll just say it. NYSL was one. And NYSL was like, it was a whole different game plan. There was supposed to be like a whole group of people that was supposed to join at the same time. And it was supposed to be like a group of Warzone stuff going on.
Sure.
And then that kind of fell through. And then Florida was another one that I never got into like, not Florida, Toronto was one that they reached out, but I was like, no, like ROKKR made me feel so important that like I would never, and even to this day, like I would never like switch off of, like I have nothing but wonderful things to say about ROKKR.
I'm not even a little bit surprised by that. I know a decent amount of the folks behind the scenes at Minnesota, and they are delightful. Everything I've ever seen from them, both in my personal interactions and what I see put forward with other people, it really seems like they've done a great job of fostering a really healthy environment for their content creators, for their competitive players, for everyone else at the org. And so I got to follow up really quick then. So you found your home. You love Minnesota ROKKR. They have helped you kind of go into this full time and fulfill this dream. Who do you think, or rather, who would you love to see get that same opportunity as you and get picked up by an org?
Probably Kenz and Eddie are my top two. I can't believe that Eddie's not picked up.
I can't either, honestly.
I don't get it. And you know, like it's such a like bittersweet thing for him, because as much as he is successful, like he has to see, you know, like Tom and Ben and all his peers do X things with CDL orgs, and he's just like the odd man out. So, and then Ken's, obviously, she's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a chance to talk to Kenz. I think you were in when we did that episode. I think you were in the chat, but and we totally agree. Everybody's saying Eddie, everybody's saying Noobs. Like he's got to get on an org. And you know, as we start talking about competitive achievements and we start talking about like working with orgs to, you know, be invited to tournaments, I think one of the things that we wanted to bring up, of course, like stat lines, right? Like you're technically, I think, third all time for women earned in all of Warzone life cycle, or it's right there with both of the other two women around you. You're second for Caldera, I think, technically, but you're first if you include Rebirth, which you talked about Rebirth being one of your favorite modes.
I love
it. So when you include Rebirth into those stats, you are a top earned woman in Caldera and Rebirth together. But what are some of, like, you know, we know how talented you are at the game, but what are some of like the unique challenges that you faced along the way in the competitive scene in particular? And we're talking here Warzone. Like you've already talked a little bit about that with like competitive Call of Duty, but from the Warzone side, what were some of those challenges?
It's so easily the mental for me. Like it's very hard for me to lose. Like I hate losing, but it's how I lose usually. And especially if I mess up and I know that I've messed up, like I will beat myself over the mistakes that I've made over and over and over again. And it hurts. Like it hurts to know that, like, you know that you should have won something that you didn't win because you messed up at the end of the day. And I've been doing a lot better. Like I have my really highs and my really lows. And my really lows, I try really hard to pick myself back up, because like this game is all mental. Like you need to go in there with like full on confidence that you are the best in the game, even though like you might not be, but you have to think that you are the best in the game. And that is something that I've been working, especially recently, on like very, very, very hard, because I am 100%, and I know everybody says this, like that they're their worst like critic, but I 100% am. Anything that anyone has said to me, I have said to myself before. Like as mean as it is, as harsh as it is, I have told myself that to myself before, and it's really hard to like get out of that. Like once you start to like be mean to yourself and say that like, what are you doing? You know, like you don't deserve to be here. Like, what the frick? Like, that's hard to get out of, is like that mental of like, you're nothing because you're not winning. Yeah. Because people put so much emphasis on winning.
Yeah. I mean, winning can really, we see it as casters all the time throughout these tournaments. say it's a 2v2, for example, if a team hits a hiccup, or maybe it's a really nail bite finish that doesn't go their way, we oftentimes see players perform differently following that in these tournaments, when sometimes maybe you're EU and you've been up all night and you're tired, or you get knocked down into losers and you're frustrated about how something played out. We can see how it changes the in-game performance, at least from our perspective as casters. But I love that you pivoted to this. It's like, you know what we're going to ask before we ask it. So a couple days ago, rather about a day ago, you tweeted that your confidence took a hit 2 months ago and you were in a huge slump. You've gone back to challenging all men teams, top Warzone players, and trying to branch out of co-ed stuff, and your confidence is really coming back. Believing in yourself really does make a difference. Keep pushing yourself. So what happened 2 months ago to inspire this, and how was the journey to kind of get back to this positive point? Because that can be so difficult to get yourself out of a dark spot.
Yeah. I think it was the fact that I was playing with the best, called like one of the best, which is ScummN, and I wasn't winning. And that, like, to know that you're playing with somebody so talented and you still cannot win is such a hit confidence wise, because you're like, it's my fault. Like, I am playing with like probably the top three, top four best Warzone players, and I still cannot win. Like, what am I doing? And so, like, and then you would pull up the scoreboard. I'm bottom fragging from like, I'm like 5-6 kills behind the next person, and I'm just like, dude, like, what is going on? Like, and then my gameplay changed completely to where I started playing so passively. Like, I wasn't dying, which is awesome, but I wasn't getting kills because I was playing so far behind. And I was like, okay, like, something needs to change. Like, I need to change something. So then I started playing a lot more aggressively, a lot more, when I feel like now my confidence is up because I found the perfect balance between like being really aggressive, being really passive, playing for a pick before you push something, blah, blah, blah. And so now I'm like, wow, like, I'm getting some rhythm in the game finally. And I'm out fragging like the males on the team. So then I was like, you know what? Like, let's start to try to find, this is the hardest part though, is just try to find somebody to play, you know, example, like Destroy and Clutch Bell. Fuzzin was the only person that would want to play that with me. So we ended up like winning one of them, losing one. And I was like, dude, like, I'm out fragging, destroying Clutch Bell. Like, yeah. Let's go. Right. You know? And then I've been playing like 1v1s, and 1v1s are really good because you have to play so much more like tactical and strategic and stuff. And everything is close, and it's just like okay, like we're getting it back again, because I used to play like men probably more than I played like women and co-ed stuff, and then I stopped completely and I just played like all female chals and all that stuff, and I could tell like I was just struggling, like I was not doing good, and so you just have to make yourself uncomfortable, honestly.
I love that line. That's great.
I do too. I was gonna say this another perfect transition over to, because when you start talking about like making yourself uncomfortable, getting better, like coming out of slumps, like I wanna jump back to like your come up and the success that you have had, which we can celebrate, right? Smix, like you have been such a talented player for so long, and you have won a ton of money in Warzone in a general sense. Like you have a ton of wins under your belt, a lot of podium finishes. When you start giving advice to people, because I know there's a lot of people in this space that are trying to make this thing work, whether it's full-time, which, you know, obviously you had talked about ROKKR, or if it's just, hey, I want to be able to compete at the highest level and be known as one of those top Warzone competitors. What is some of the advice that you have given or would give to those aspiring players who look up to you?
My main advice is consistency is key. You know, in terms of getting invites, you have to grow your brand. Like, nobody's going to know you if you don't have a name. Like, that means like streaming, that means putting clips out, that means making TikToks, making, you know, like doing something to get your name out there. Like, yeah, sure, you're winning Twitter tournaments. Nobody cares because there's 4 Twitter tournaments a day. Your champs tweet doesn't really mean anything.
Yep.
You know?
Right.
So So really just putting your name out there as like, hey, I'm a brand, pick me up for like a huge spot in like a big tourney. That's what you should be focusing on, not just, hey, I'm a huge competitor, I don't stream, you can't find any of my content,
Yeah,
you don't
right.
really know how good I am. Pick me, you know?
Yeah, that's a really good point. When you start talking about content, I know that you've started picking back up YouTube again and starting to create content. Talk to me a little bit about your content path forward, like kind of what's next for Smixie in the content world, because that is a huge piece, especially right now where we're at. Like, if you want to make a name for yourself in Warzone going into Warzone 2, it can't just be competing. It has to be content, and I know everybody is preaching that, but even you are starting to work on your content game. So what does that look like for you?
It's really focusing on like my TikTok and my YouTube, because I'm streaming every day. Like, I think I went like nearly 400 days in a row streaming. Like, streaming every day is not a problem for me. Yeah. It's really just YouTube. I've struggled with YouTube for so long because the thing that I love about streaming is the immediate interaction with the chat. Is like, I just get to chat all day, every day. Whereas YouTube I feel is a lot more distant, where I don't really get that interaction with the people that watch my videos. So I've always struggled putting content on there, but I know it's important. I hit 1K subs on YouTube, so I'm pretty happy.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm putting out like 1 or 2 videos a week for now, because when you don't like edit your own stuff, like, it gets pretty expensive to like get other people to do that. So before I start putting out a video a day, I'm gonna have to start making a lot more money.
Well, I will say I saw your tweet about Stray, and I think you said you're gonna do a YouTube video of your playthrough of Stray. I played through it on stream yesterday. It is delightful. I think you're really, really going to enjoy yourself with that. That should be anyone watching, definitely check out Smixie's YouTube when that does go up. It's a great game. You'll really like it.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited. I love like story mode games, single player games. I love that stuff.
You might random, but if you haven't heard of it, As Dusk Falls, I think, has just come out too. It's a narrative driven game that you might want to take a peek at. I saw a bit of it. Looks similar in a sense, so that could be something to take a look at. But let's keep it moving before we start going down a spiral of YouTube content. There's been a kind of a bad some bad juju right now in Warzone with people getting hit by Shadowbans. It seems like suddenly there's just been this massive uptick, right? I saw a rated tweet today saying he's been freed from his.
Finally.
And and you have tweeted about that recently as well. And is that something that you personally have experienced? Why do you think there's been this uptick? And what's the situation like currently?
I've been shadowbanned once. It was in Verdansk, and it was during a wave just like this one. Me, Kenz, and Shay all got shadowbanned the same day, the same time, everything. And I don't know, like, I got a lot of hate for that tweet because I was just focusing on content creators.
I saw someone was really going after you for some reason. It was sort of weird.
Yeah, and like, fair enough. Like, I wasn't just talking. I was obviously talking about everyone, but I'm saying specifically for content creators, getting shadowbanned is so. Like, that hurts. Like, that hurts your brand, because then you got BBB lovers on your case saying that you cheat and blah blah blah. Like, it like for sure hurts like your name in terms of the grand scheme of your audience. And not only the fact that, like, I remember when the shadow ban that I got hit with, I almost couldn't play in one of the major tournaments because it's against TOS to play on another account. When you're shadow banned. Thankfully they don't go crazy on that, and because we would all be perma banned, so thank God. But I was like, okay, but like, why are we getting shadow banned? Like, how is this happening? Like, how are we letting like 80% of creators getting shadow banned at once? Like, that's such a horrible look for your community when your favorite streamer is playing on like Billy Bob, like 123, because he's shadow banned on his main account. Like, it's I just think that, like, it's such a bad look on the anti-cheat, because half of the people that are getting shadow banned don't cheat. So thing doesn't work, you know? Like there's like, I just think like there's just so much more that like Activision could do in terms of at least like your creators. Like your creators are the people, you know, like making content on your game, you know? Like you would want them to, I don't know.
It's a very interesting conversation because ultimately, right, like you have to assume that there's some sort of mass reporting going on, and does that mean, you know, certain streamers, especially large creators, need to be whitelisted so that doesn't happen? I mean, there's a lot of conversations around that, but I know it has been a lot of frustration for some people. But speaking of, you know, anti-cheat and everything that's kind of like new in Warzone and trying to kind of create some sort of safety net for the protection of Warzone 2, I want to make a move to Warzone 2. You had another tweet. We did kind of farm through your Twitter, by the way, just to pull these topics. So you had another tweet that said, Warzone 2 will save us all.
Yes, look, I have so much faith. I have so much faith.
I love that. And I want to talk about it because we've had a ton of people on the podcast talking about Warzone 2, their hopes, their dreams, and everything for that, wish lists. And I want to just hear your general thoughts about this Warzone 2 idea. I know it's coming later in the year. Somebody in chat was asking, I think the guesstimate right now is like late November, December, after Modern Warfare 2 has dropped for a couple months. But talk to me about Warzone 2 and your hopes and dreams.
I'm not asking for much. I just want something like, I really hope that they don't like slow down the pace, because I think that that's what makes Warzone unique in a BR sense, is that you can drop like 30-40 kills in a game like that. That's unheard of in any other BR, and that's what makes Warzone unique. I do love the loadout thing. I think that that's also something that makes Warzone unique, is that no other BR, you know, you get to pick a class and just kind of rock with it. I think the most important thing in Warzone 2, I don't care what map you throw me on, I don't care what you give me, make updates. Like, update the game so I'm not playing the same game for 3 months straight, you know? Like, I don't care if you could add a POI, you could add, you know, new metas, new guns, new whatever, like, just like make changes. Like, we shouldn't be playing the same game for so long. Like, it's just... Like, as a content creator, like, what the heck am I supposed to do when I'm playing, you know, when there's nothing new, you know?
Yeah, no, I totally feel that. I saw somebody tweet out today. It was talking about like different games and how hard they are to cast, and you know, League of Legends usually gets the rep for the hardest. But somebody, you know, brought up Fortnite and how hard Fortnite can be, mainly though because they make changes to that game constantly. Like there are so many updates. Oh, there's these weapons in the game now. Oh, there's a new weapon that gets added into the game. Oh, there's new POI. Oh, this POI's changed, and this is all within like 1 month, right? And so totally hear you on that. Katie, I know you have another question about this. We could talk about Warzone 2 forever, so.
Yeah, this is a question we've gotten some significantly varying opinions on. Some are very pro, some are very con. Do you have an opinion about a ranked mode in Warzone 2? Is that something you're interested in, something you don't think is pivotal? What are your thoughts?
Love that. I would love a ranked mode. I think the most important thing is you have a ranked mode, and then you have very little SBMM pubs. For the people that want to farm that sort of content, they can. For the people who don't want to play ranked, they get put in that, you know, place, because odds are all the sweaty kids are going to be playing ranked anyway. So there's not going to be that many, you know, like sweats in the regular pubs. But that way you're not always playing a super sweaty, I have to try my hardest every single game type of game. Like, I can go and chill, relax in the pub, boom, go to the rank mode if I want to sweat.
Yeah, I think that's a strong answer. We've definitely had varying answers on both sides of the coin, but ultimately I think that's the general consensus is like, hey, if we have a ranked mode that theoretically could ease the burden of SBMM in the main mode, so I like it. Any other kind of wish list items for Warzone 2? I mean, you said you didn't ask for much. You basically just said, hey, give me more content and make the game fairly quick. You mentioned loadouts. Anything else that you're like, hey, please have this in Warzone 2?
Maybe I think like some sort of like skill gap, some like movement skill gap, you know, like example, like Blood Hunt, like there's a huge skill gap in like the movement of Blood Hunt. Like, you know, a really good player to a really poor player just by like the way that they move. We need something like that too in like Warzone. But other than that, honestly, I'm super excited. Like, I think Fortune's Keep is a huge like inkling to the public that like they can make a good map. Like it's like Caldera was a flop, yeah, okay, but like Fortune's Keep is an amazing map. So
yeah,
there's hope that they know what they're doing, you know?
Exactly. No, that's definitely been like the general consensus is like, hey, Fortune's Keep, probably the best map they've ever made. Like, it's kind of crazy to think that it came out this late into the life cycle, but seemingly they are listening. And so we're hoping, of course, that translates into Warzone 2. Dang, Smixie, you have been a joy to have on the podcast. Katie, do you have any other thoughts, questions before we close it out? I know I've got kind of one more closing thought for Smix, but anything else you have?
No, it's been fabulous to finally get you on. You've been one of our most requested by a lot of people, and I think you have a really inspiring story to tell. So thank you for taking the time with us, and just being super, super easy to work with. I wish you absolutely nothing but the best. You deserve it, and I think the best is yet to come for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, you've been amazing, and you've done all of our transitions for us, so that makes our whole job so much easier. It's been great. Well, a final thought for you, Smix. It's been, again, I've said this probably 10 times now, but I'm gonna say it again. It's been such a blast to watch kind of from the back end as a caster of like your success and kind of your journey, and it's really cool to hear your story, like Katie said. You've given advice to the public, but I want you to take a moment. You know, you don't have to gloat or anything, but please shout yourself out. Tell everyone where they can find you. Give yourself a pat on the back and say, hey, come find all of my content here. So give us the YouTube plug, give us the Twitch plug, and everything that you're doing behind the scenes.
Well, it's going to be super easy. It's at iSmixie on all social media, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch.
Boom.
There you go.
Amazing. That was the perfect read. Go find Smixie on all of her platforms. She's making new content. She's still competing, and the best is certainly yet to come. Smix, thanks so much, and have a great tournament. I know you've got a tournament later.
Yeah, good luck.
Good luck in that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, we'll catch you later.
Catch you guys later. Thank you so much for having me on.
Of course.
Of course. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay.
It's fantastic, Gojj. Did you expect any less?
No, but I am going to have a slightly messed up viewpoint here because she was double Discorded. Boom, there we are. We're there. There's always a bit of chaos when somebody leaves the Discord channel, but...
See, you fixed it before I did. So it just looked weird.
What?
I threw Lee to fit in, and then you fixed it beforehand. And,
pretty much fixed it. You're a little bit off center, which I can fix.
Yeah,
but,
it's okay.
Katie, that was like amazing. She was an incredible guest.
Very well spoken.
She knew exactly what she was talking about. She had her whole story planned out, and she was able to kind of provide a lot of insight too for people behind the scenes that were trying to grind. I mean, I think her story is incredibly compelling because she started right at the very beginning of her career, like competing in traditional COD, and then was like, hey, I'm not enjoying this. Let me step back, do my thing, kind of readjust. Warzone comes out and she finds her groove and then full sends into it from the competitive side to the content creation side. Really, really cool story. So glad we could have her on.
Well, I think it highlights something interesting that people sometimes don't always realize, because you can see people like Smixie who are successful and that's all you see, right, is the success. You don't realize that it was college and job and scrims and MWRGBs and all of these things, and 2 viewers or 10 or growing and then the dip. I think things like that are so important to talk about, going back down to just a few viewers and then going up and now in the triple digits, and here you are and you have found Warzone, and that was the fate you were looking for. I love stories like that because it really highlights to people that it very rarely and honestly almost never happens that someone goes from 0 to 100 right off rip. There are those bumps, the highs and lows, and I love that Smixie shared that because I can put it into perspective for people, especially when you're streaming, to get up again if you're stumbling or if something isn't quite fitting. Keep going, experiment, and figure out what works. So really happy to see where she is now.
And just commitment in general. She was streaming. I see White Chimes in the chat. We'll give him,
I had no
give him a
idea.
shout out.
I had no idea she streamed
for 5 years before getting partner.
Yeah.
That's commitment. That's a lot of consistency. Like she said, consistency is key. So thanks again to Smixie for coming on. All right, I'm gonna swap us over, Katie, because it's time for one of our favorite news segments. Let's pray this works. Boom! Immediately, no problems at all. Man, I love not having tech issues. Chat,
Beautiful.
it's time for one of our favorite segments really quickly before you guys head out. We've got the Kolosseum stat chat, and we've got another section right after this, so don't go anywhere. Really excited to partner with Kolosseum over the last couple weeks. This is week number 4, I believe, of them providing some really fun stats for us to go through. They're part of the reason this podcast still exists, and we're able to continue making content and inviting these amazing guests on for you. Like Smixie said, making YouTube videos, it isn't free necessarily, and we're working with some amazing editors, but they get paid because of people like Kolosseum. So let's talk about Kolosseum. We're going to go through some of these stats, Katie, as per usual, and you guys can have a chance to enter into some of their contests in a bit. You can type !sponsor or Kolosseum if you know how to spell it in the chat, and that will bring up all the info you need. But to start, as per usual, they've given us these stats, and what they do here is they just give us a bunch of fun stats to have some conversations around. So to start, look at the top here. Stellar Moves has a victory streak of 36 wins in a row, Katie.
How?
36. Look, I know there's a lot of streamers that were shadow banned, and they usually only kind of take care of the main accounts of a lot of these streamers. Right. I can't imagine if everybody wouldn't have been shadow banned, anybody's taken home more than 36 wins in a row over Stellar. That's insane.
No, that's outrageous, because there's so many things that happen in a game that are out of your control and that are unpredictable. And the fact that you can overcome those to get 36 in a streak is sort of outrageous when you think about it. So, I mean, anytime you get win streaks in any, I don't care what Warzone map it is, anytime it's double digits, you're like, all right. All right. Fair play.
Yep. Headshots. Lucy's got 18 headshots in one game. Pretty solid. Not bad at all. Time played 44 hours. Now this is in a week, so you're basically clocking like an 8.5, eight and a quarter hour day every single day over a work week. Yeah, that's great hours there for Mr. Bonk. Again, some of these maybe full-time streamers as well that are shadow banned, maybe their hours would have been similar, but Bonk has taken it this week. And executions, OP Mark had 12, I think, in one game, if I'm remembering correctly.
That's just not right. Like, there's a very intimate moment that happens, Gojj, when you execute someone, between the executor and the executee, and it never feels good for one of the parties. It's just such a sit down, kid moment. And to do that 12 times, you have to wonder, did they do it to the same person more than once?
Probably.
Because that just wouldn't be right. That wouldn't be right.
Look, whether that's a week or if that's in a game, it doesn't really matter. If it is in one game, I'll try to find the sat in a bit. That means that was definitely some sort of a chow. That was a chow. That was a chow from chat. We'll keep going. We got a lot to get through here. Camper, Super Evan had a game where he moved 46% of the time he was in game. He was camping. He was camping. I don't know what he was doing in that game. But
maybe they came to him. Maybe he didn't have to leave. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes it's everyone. It's a constant influx of people.
Yeah, peak or otherwise. Let's keep moving down the list. Okay, we've got some. 50 kills for Fortune's Keep. Yeah, sure, no problem. 50 in Fortune's Keep. 43 in Caldera. These are kills in one game. And Sage had the most in Rebirth of 44. All very solid numbers.
Sage is one of my favorite folks that I just don't feel like it's talked enough about. Sage is really good. So seeing that name on here, all those names check out. All of them.
Yeah, Demon. Keep it moving as we get into average placement. Look, they go to a certain number of decimal places on this, all right? This is not like this isn't a cheese stat, but Mr. Soki and or Mrs. Oki, don't know which one, I'm gonna be honest, averaged in Rebirth games over an entire week, first place, straight up, like 1.00. Now there could be an extra decimal place there that's like 1.009 or something. Maybe that rounds up. I don't know. All I know is average first throughout the week. Stellar also averaged first, which makes sense because they had 36 wins in a row. So you can only imagine those averages are going to be very, very high. Very impressive.
Yeah, that's you don't get a bigger flex than that. Let's be clear.
We'll keep moving down. Okay, these are victories. A couple more stats here. Zydo had 71 overall victories in a week. Bonk had 68 overall victories in Caldera. And Microvolt had 49 victories in Rebirth. This is insane. I mean, these people just grind wins. And I mean, I know that for a fact, especially for Bonk. He's a win grinder for sure. We've got Huskers and King Dotarchi, who had the exact same number of Gulag wins, which was 94. And then, unfortunately, Unpakit had 111 Gulag losses. Not a great day in the office.
Sometimes it be that way, you know. Sometimes the gulag, it giveth, it taketh away, and sometimes it taketh away 111 times, and all you gotta do is just, you know, just run it back the next day. Just don't worry about it.
Respectfully run it back.
Don't worry about it. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
All right, last one, and this goes back to who Kolosseum is. These are fantasy points. So if you didn't know, users like you guys in chat can enter into their Friday freebie contests for free, aka Friday freebie. It makes sense. And win money by putting together a fantasy team. You have like a budget and you create your fantasy team. These were the top point earners throughout the week. And I will say Huskers always on this list. So if you have the kind of salary cap available for him, grab him. Huskers at the top of this list at 703. Z-Smith at second, 677. Z-Laner up into the mix as well. Tommy, Otterize, and then Bonk as well with all of his insane amount of wins. These are all fantastic players to pick up for your squad. But you got to make sure you have enough money in-game, kind of like fake currency money, salary cap for those players. But you can build your own squad online. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, check it out, guys, for sure. And once again, a big shout out to Kolosseum. The stat chat's always fun. I just always see it's fun, Gojj, for me to look at stats because I'm like, I'll never be able to do. Well, the Gulag deaths I could probably do, but anything else on that, no shot.
We should just go for it one of these days. Make sure that we're in their system.
Camping and Gulag losses. I bet we could get up there.
That's what I was gonna say. We should just try to see if we can like get on one of our own stat sheets. We're gonna try to do that for sure one of these days. No, thank you so much to Kolosseum for making this whole podcast happen. It's time for you guys to get more from Warzone streaming. You can enter into Kolosseum's free Warzone fantasy contest and win when your favorite streamers win. So you have to do, type exclamation point sponsor in the chat, exclamation point Kolosseum. Will also pull it up, and you can use code BOTLOBBY for some free monies, right? If it's your first time entering, free monies to go enter into some contests. We say this every single time. One of my mods went in for the first time, won some money, and I believe, Katie, one of your mods also went in and won some money. So our mods are making a run in the Kolosseum contest. Go make a run for yourself, exclamation point sponsor. Amazing. Thank you so much to Kolosseum. Now, Katie, we've got one more section. As per usual, we're going to be headed over to Shitter's Digest. Now,
Yes.
Look, I feel like we've done this enough to where we don't have to explain it, but maybe you're tuning in for the very first time. Shitter's Digest is essentially Katie and Gojj's newspaper of Twitter shenanigans that have been going on in the Warzone community, okay? It's the shitters. They're the shitters, and it's our digest. We're digesting through all of this crap that is going on, okay? And there's a lot kind of to get through. Main point, though, Katie, talk to us a little bit about some kind of breaking news over the last, like, 2-3 days from the org scene.
Yeah, so I know that in a lot of the episodes we've teased signings, but this is kind of the reverse of that, right? So JoeWo and IceManIsaac are no longer with NRG. This seems to continue kind of a trend of NRG continually just stepping away from Call of Duty in general, whether it's on the multiplayer side or on Warzone. And JoeWo and iceman, free men on the market, right? And we saw the tweets very. I think very receptive. Their time at NRG was fabulous, but there was a tweet from JoeWo that I thought was particularly interesting because the Tim the Tatman tailgate just happened. I know you were there. A lot of folks were there, but he tweeted, want to thank Tim the Tatman and Complexity for the amazing weekend. Was truly an honor meeting so many incredible people, and Texas WoW is looking better and better. And considering the rash of pickups Complexity has had lately, they are picking up a lot of content creators, a lot of streamers. There's a very real world in which you see Complexity JoeWo.
I think there is almost no question in my mind that JoeWo will be going to Complexity. I mean, it's like, it seems so obvious. Like, I was there, I was hanging out with JoeWo. I'll give a quick shout out to StanMan34, if you guys know Warzone content creators, and my friend Haylight, who no longer does Warzone. They were trying to cross him up and play him in some basketball. It was hilarious. Joe was there. I had a long conversation with Joe. He's a great dude. But there was this just like inkling that like there was something going on. You know what I mean? Like, there was something going on behind the scenes of like, hey, he releases this tweet that he's no longer with NRG, is at the Tapman tailgate. Not weird. There's a lot of people that were there, a lot of Warzone people that were there in particular. But like, maybe was doing a little bit more work. Like, I'm not trying to leak anything, but I had some messages from people saying they were working on some YouTube content instead of being at the tailgate for a bit. So there's just a lot of options for people that Complexity could pick up, and I think JoeWo might be top of that list. I also think, Katie, there's a decent chance Ice would follow him there. Not that he's following him, but like both of them would head to Complexity.
It would make a lot. Yeah. It would make a lot of sense, and Complexity is an interesting discussion in general as an org because they've kind of been a little sleepy for a while, and it seems like again with these pickups of all these people, you have Jordan Fisher coming in recently. There's a lot of these pickups that are happening. It very clearly seems to be signaling that they're trying to kind of build up what that brand is again and have that presence and have these big players as a part of that org. And I certainly think JoeWo and Iceman fit that bill. Obviously, they work well together as they did at NRG with all the content they did, but also extremely close with a lot of the people at Complexity. I wouldn't be surprised to see it. Granted, you have to keep in mind hot commodities on the market, so I would not be surprised if they are fielding offers from a few different orgs.
Well, and I also have some behind the scenes intel. I'm just so plugged in, you know what I mean? That I believe Ice is going to be making a move to Texas very soon in the future. Oh, okay. So it just, there's too many signs pointing to Complexity for potentially both of them. And I could see Joe even moving there as well. We all know Texas fiber hits different usually. So look, that's probably where I'm guessing. I could
Texas
also
host hits Diffy too.
Yeah, I could also see a couple other orgs trying to chase them down. Optic is also an option, of course, in that area. So I don't know. There's some. I'm excited to see what happens for both of those guys. I love both of them dearly. I count them as good friends, and excited to see next steps for both because they're fantastic content creators and, of course, competitors as well. So. Anyways, all of that to say, fun point of conversation. We also have a bit of drama, Katie. We've got this was a little while ago. This was back on Thursday of last week.
It's an oldie but a goodie.
It is an oldie but a goodie. Do you want to take this one? You want to start us off and kind of walk through what happened?
Yeah. So, I think actually, I'll give a brief overview, Gojj, but I think you actually might have a better job of kind of the nitty-gritty details of it. Sure. But this is the showdown, ScummN versus Jukeyz and the lost trail of deleted tweets. So there was a bit of sniping going back and forth. It happened around Thursday of last week, which was right after we had done our episode, which is why we're bringing it up now. But there was some mudslinging occurring, some accusations of maybe who is the shitter between the two of them, and but Gojj, I think you might have a better grasp of some of the kind of nitty-gritties of this.
Yeah, so I was perusing the Twitterverse, as I do as a caster. That's kind of what I live for, and there was a big not big. There was a fairly decent sized Amsterdam LAN tournament, right? It was like a $5,000 tournament. It was great. And it was a really interesting tournament because you had a lot of people in the EU scene that could get there pretty quickly, really excited to compete. You had, namely like people like Jukeyz, Lennon, etc. Some of the EU talent that always competes were there. But you also had people, which we'll talk more about this in a bit, flying from across the world. We had some of our Mexico friends, our competitors, that flew across the world to Amsterdam. Probably cost them their tickets were like probably $2,000 a piece.
Not cheap.
No,
lodging tickets.
Yeah, no, not at all. And the winning prize was like $3,000. So like, were they coming out on top? I think they probably came out negative, but it was more about the experience. Blah blah blah. However, Jukey's team did end up getting second. The format was kind of interesting because I think it was. Somebody can correct me later if I'm wrong. It was somewhere around the neighborhood of like 8 games of Rebirth or whatever, and I can't even remember which game mode it was, but 2 games get dropped. So consistency doesn't really matter. It was all about dropping banger maps, essentially. It was Rebirth, now that I remember correctly. So I think it was 8 and 6 counted. Very interesting format. But with that, Jukeyz team ended up getting second, and ScummN tweeted out, later deleted by the way, Jukeyz is apparently a top 5 player, but can't even win a Mickey Mouse LAN. Talk about shots fired across the bow.
That's not, it's not even cheeky. It's not even like snarky. It's just straight like, hello, F you. I'm going to throw this right in your face. And Jukeyz shot right back. And he didn't mince his words either. I mean, he straight up, when ScummN brought up the fact that he lost to Shifty on land during that whole debacle, and it was kind of just mudslinging from both sides, and I'm here for it. We got to get quick on the draw with screenshotting ScummN tweets. Because look, I'm just saying, if you're gonna go at him like that, you can't then delete the tweet.
Yeah, that's just kind of what he does. And he's part of, like, part of it's like half joking, part of it's probably not half joking. I mean, he's just a troll, but it was hilarious. The immediate clap back from Jukeyz, and then Scum was like, yeah, I'm out on this, and just deleted everything on those tweets because he was like, I mean, fair enough. But no, I know there was a lot of circumstances around both of those things, but still, regardless, an hilarious conversation to have. Jukeyz kind of went on a couple different tweets and was saying,
he
like,
was tweeting. He was tweeting.
Could it be the kid that flew across the country on land, like blah 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 blah. So very, very funny back and forth, but we live for that type of drama here, especially as long as it's like fairly lighthearted drama. We're here for it. But yeah, Katie, I wanted to kind of like finish up some of our conversations here to talk about like our Mexican players that flew across the globe basically to go compete in a LAN event and win said LAN event. And I am super, I will add this probably into the description because I feel so bad that I didn't write down their names. I know it was Panda at the very least. I think it was Panda. No, I'm not even gonna guess. I know Panda was there. Panda's team ended up winning, right? And these guys spent a ton of money to get there. They had a blast. It was a huge experience, and they won. But it also kind of is a microcosm for the current tournament landscape that we're in. We've been, we've talked about this multiple times now on the Bot Lobby podcast of this kind of like drought that we've been in of Warzone tournaments. And I can happily say, like, there is a wave coming into the future. Katie and I both know about. But like right now, over the last couple of months, it's been pretty quiet. And, there's good reason for that. There's probably restricted budgets or what have you, but you can see the like want and the need for these competitors to go find tournaments. So we went from a player market where players were kind of just like, oh, I'm just going to sit kind of behind my desk. I'm not going to travel anywhere, and I'm going to play in 100K every other day. And I get to dictate how that tournament is run because they need me playing in them because there's so many events going on. To now, it's like players saying, I'll do anything. I'll play in any tournament. I'll do whatever you need me to do as long as I can still compete. I'll fly halfway across the country to compete for 5K.
Yeah, I mean, first off, I have so much respect for people who have undertakings like that because you're taking such a risk, right? To travel all that way, spend all that money for no guarantee. You might just be in the hole and depresso espresso on your flight back, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that you could do that and then win, like jet lag, whatever else, there's just a lot stacked against you. I love seeing that because it also just shows that passion for the game, and you wanna foster that in people, right? You want to foster a game that encourages people to make decisions like that. Like, yeah, I'm gonna fly, to another country to participate in this because I love this game and I think I can compete in it. But you're right. It's been really sleepy for about a month and a half here. June had hardly anything. We've had kind of here and there Twitter tournaments, but it has been a drought. And as you've said, we do know there's some stuff on the horizon. But I mean, what do you make of it, right? I mean, and partially it makes sense. You're in a holding pattern waiting for Warzone 2. I think there's more to it than that, to be sure. But I will say I am really excited about some of the upcoming events, and I think that a lot of the players, especially once things get announced, will be very, very excited on the timeline.
No, I couldn't agree more. I will say, just to give them a true shout out, because they certainly deserve it. It was Panda, who was our Mexico player that traveled all the way across the globe. Then you had Jesus, was one of his teammates from Italy that came up for it as well. And then you had Bernie EU, who is probably somewhere around the area. So kind of 3 different players from all over the globe coming together, winning this Amsterdam LAN. Right over Jukeyz and Co. So super excited for them. Congratulations to them. Look, there's only been a few lands, to be totally honest, and I'm excited about future lands potentially happening. But hey, if you have a land win under your belt, that is a huge accomplishment and something that people can look at, whether they think it's a Mickey Mouse land or not. It's still a win on land, and not a lot of people can say the same.
That's a huge point too, because I think wins on land as well have impact in so many more ways than just saying that you've done it on LAN, and all the pressures and not being at your setup and the pressure of the cameras and everything else and whatever. It can really mean a lot for individuals to say, like, no, you can't talk shit to me, or you can't accuse me of suspect things, because I have done this on LAN against these people. I can clearly kind of get to the top, whether I'm at home or on LAN. So hopefully more to come for those for sure too.
Totally agree. Well, I know we've talked a little bit about our last topic for the day, which was kind of Shadowbans and the things that can be entailed in Shadowbans. So we don't need to harp on it too much more, but excited that Raided's no longer Shadowbanned, and some others
I saw that. I was giggling. Raided is free, everyone. Raided is free from the Shadowban. Hopefully everyone else soon to follow. And I have to just hope there's a game plan there, because there's so much we don't know, because we're not on the inside, we're not working directly on this. But I just have to assume there's kinks being worked out. There's things that are being refined. They're just trying to, and maybe they're over tuning things, under tuning things right now. I don't know, in preparation of Warzone 2. I'm sure there's so much going on. So I have to assume, they know what they're doing. They're figuring it out. And obviously we just don't know what we don't know.
Yeah, no, couldn't agree more. People are having conversations behind the scenes. That's all I know. And I'm hoping that, of course, some of these issues will be fixed going into Warzone 2. And there'll be some better kind of fenced off areas that are like, hey, don't go past here, you're going to be totally fine. And hey, if you are getting mass reported or etc., we can fix that problem rapidly. Regardless though, excited about Warzone 2, excited about our guest that was today. Smixie was amazing. Excited about this episode. Katie, I think that's all I've got. I've got to tell chat though, if you're in YouTube or you're in Twitch, thank you guys so much for your support. Make sure you like the YouTube video and subscribe to the channel, because you guys have been super grateful, or not grateful. Whatever.
You should be grateful for our content. No, he didn't stutter.
We're killing it. I don't remember what I was trying. I was basically, you guys are amazing. Gracious. That's the word I was looking for giving us so much support thus far. We've had some amazing guests. We have some more amazing guests coming. So stay tuned for next week's episode. Should be going live on Wednesday on Twitch, twitch.tv/GrandmasterGojj. And then all of our VOD content can be found on the podcast site. That's YouTube, where you can find that. That's Bot Lobby Podcast, as well as all audio platforms you can think about. If there's one that you wish we were on, tell me, I can get us on there. All right. But that's all I've got. Katie, closing statements. Where can people find you? What are you working on? Anything behind the scenes?
Unfortunately, my social's not as clean as Smixie's. You can see him right under, right? Worlds Bedford on Twitter and Instagram, Katie Bedford on Twitch, and just prepping for next week. Really excited about our upcoming guest, Gojj, and looking forward to more Bot Lobby.
Amazing. Couldn't agree more. I know we also have a tournament lurking in the future that you and I will be casting together, so stay tuned for that. One of the biggest Warzone tournaments we've seen in a while that we're going to be casting together, which I'm super excited about. But until then, Grandmaster Gojj on all major socials. I stream basically once a week for this podcast, make content occasionally, and cast a ton. So stay tuned for some of the stuff we're working on together, Katie and I, and I'm working on as well. So that's all we've got. This has been the Bot Lobby Podcast, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.